So Deadlock just released new patch notes and they are massive. I mean, a lot going into this. Many things got changed. Probably the biggest patch notes section I have ever read. And then on top of that, people are also griping and complaining considering Valve has another game that didn't get a lot of patch notes. So let's dive into it and discuss it. First off, they talk about their matchmaking now open for 24/7 for all regions. They also added new mini-map updates where the updated base asset and added new unique hero icons to it as well. Neutral camps also now represented by a highlight glow on the buildings that they are located within, and the orange lane is now the green lane. They also have a new behavior system where it's basically like shadow banning, so you may lose access to voice chatting, reporting features, or you know, pausing, text chat, all that stuff, and a low priority queue. All that stuff exists now. So shadow banning seems to exist. Also, new players, probably one of my biggest changes, new players that are queued solo will only queue up with other new players until they get 4 wins. And the lane allocation of 1-1-2-2 and 2-2-1-1 will no longer be a possible setup. 6-player parties will no longer go up against solo players, and this may result in longer queue times for 6 stacks, but I think it is what it is. We all agree it's probably a good thing. AFK players automatically will be kicked, and they implemented some new changes so that you don't accidentally queue up when you are AFK. There are some small minor changes, bug fixes, and small little tweaks that they did. I don't think are big deals, like, you know, added a certain type of you know, look to some of the fans and stuff. To, you know, there's no mechanical changes to it, just aesthetics, right? So I don't think this is really that important to mention. But other changes with the scoreboard and extra info. Previously, there were a lot of crossover between the tab and alt modes during gameplay. In this update, we have separated the behavior of these two modes to better serve different functions. Glad they did that. The keys used for each of these modes can be swapped within keybind settings. So the scoreboard tab enables cursor mode, displays scoreboard, displays damage summary, and allows minimap ping and draw. And then extra info, which is alt, no longer enables cursor mode. Quick upgrade abilities, and each of these can individually be remapped and can now more easily map alt as an alternative cast button and display extra information on the HUD, and they plan to expand upon this in future updates. Minor client performance improvements as well. Game automatically starts preloading the map once the client is launched, so that should be a little bit faster of an update for you guys. And then also there's some small nitty-gritty changes. Once again, upgrade ability keys are now customizable, adjusted mid-boss low health roar set. So, you know, a lot of these things you can read through. I don't think that these are necessarily massive to talk about. However, you know, they're all miscellaneous, right? Miscellaneous gameplay effects. Now, we do get into some bigger changes when we start talking about the weapon items, these builds that you can obviously perform. Some of these specific builds are not going to be as practical anymore because some of the, you know, settings on them got changed. So for instance, when we're talking about the weapon item specifically, headshot booster bonus damage has now been reduced from 45 down to 40. High velocity mag reduced from 14% to 12%. Restorative shot healing from heroes increased 35 to 40. Restorative shot to troopers is increased from 10 to 15. Hollow point round also got changed where the conditional weapon damage has been increased from 20% to 22%. Rapid rounds got a fire rate reduction from 12 to 9%. Rapid rounds also got an update with no longer providing minus 50 max health. Active reload also got an update where life steal now been reduced from 22 to 20%. Mystic shot spirit damage now considers bullet fall off. Mystic shot also got a cooldown reduction from 6 seconds to 5 seconds. Berserker also got bullet resist reduction from 8% to 7%. Long range also got an update with bullet shield increasing from plus 90 to plus 140. Melee charge has a charge distance bonus that has now been removed to innate section. Also, you've got melee charge. Passive now has a 8-second cooldown. Melee charge also, when passive triggers, you deal a bonus of plus 20% melee damage. Melee charger also got another update where it now gives UI indication when reload proc. So I think that there's a lot of updates to melee charge for good reason. However, there's more to consider here, a lot more. Fleetfoot also active mood speed from 4 to 3. Fleetfoot, another one. Cooldown reduced from 22 to 18 seconds. Also, Fleetfoot, health increased from plus 75 to plus 90. Warpstone range reduced from 13 meters to 11 meters. Heroic Aura, active movement speed bonus reduced from 3 to 2. Burst Fire now provides plus 70 health. Sharpshooter bullet health increased from plus 70, 175 to 200. And Hunter's Aura bullet resist reduction reduced from minus 10% to minus 9%. And then you've also got Titanic Magazine. Bullet resist increased from 15% to 18%. And Alchemical Fire Spirit Power increased from +7 to +11. Crippling Headshot debuff duration reduction from 5 seconds to 4 seconds. Lucky Shot build bonus damage increased from 80% to 90%. Glass Cannon max stack increased from 5 to 7. Silencer damage increased from 15 to 20%. Frenzy linger duration increased from 4 seconds to 6 seconds. My point here is builds are about to be changed slightly. So if you watched a build video just recently about the best builds for certain legends, well, all of this is getting changed now. So look out for new build videos, especially right here on the channel, very, very soon. Now we go to the vitality items. These are also getting changed. Healing Right also now grants +3 spirit power. Enduring Spirit lifesteal increased from 8% to 10%. Melee lifesteal, melee damage reduced from 15% to 13%. Health Nova now requires Healing Right as well. Health Nova also now grants +4 spirit power. Health Nova also has range reduced from 18 meters to 15 meters. Divine Barrier has a bullet shield reduced from 300 to 260, and Spirit Shield reduced from 300 to 260. Also, you've got Rescue Beam. Heal has been reduced from 30% to 26%. Also, Rescue Beam, the next two, cast range reduced from 45 meters to 36 meters, and it no longer requires Healing Right. Also, Fortitude got an update. Lane Troopers do not reset the passive regen timer anymore. Life Strike has a melee damage reduction from 40% to 35%. Majestic Leap has a cooldown reduction from 24 seconds to 22 seconds. And Metal Skin has a cooldown reduction from 22 seconds to 20 seconds as well. Then you've got Inhibitor. Fixed damage reduction on bullets and not being reduced by percentage properly. So it's a little bit of a bug, not necessarily I guess a buff or a nerf. Colossus also got radius increase from 10 meters to 12 meters. Also, a cooldown has been reduced from 45 seconds to 35 seconds there. Phantom Strike also got changed with damage reduced from 150 to 75 and spirit power scaling reduction from 2 to 1. Soul Rebirth also an update. No longer grants 20% weapon damage and cooldown reduction reduced from 18% to 15%. Unstoppable fixed not preventing disarm properly. So another bug fix for Unstoppable. Now we move into the spirit items. Once again, another part of the build, very, very important. Once again, getting changed. Spirit Strike melee damage reduced from 15% to 12%. Spirit Strike also debuff duration reduced from 13 seconds to 11 seconds. Spirit Shield with Spirit Strike still reduced from 100 to 80, and Spirit Strike regen has now been reduced from 1 to down to 0.8. So Mystic Reach also an update. Spirit Resist increased from 5% to 6%. And ability range is increased from 15% to 16% on that Mystic Reach also. Extra Spirit now has an increased Spirit from 8 to 9. And Ammo Scavenger neutral skill or neutral kills now count as a soul capture for you. And buff duration increased from 35 seconds to 40 seconds. I like Ammo Scavenger, obviously a nice little change for it here. Then you've got Withering Whip. Fire rate slow increased from 30% to 40%. Slowing Hex has a projectile speed increase by 20%. And Quicksilver Reload has a damage increase from 50 to 65. Surge of Power also imbued ability now grants plus 10% fire rate when used. That same 6-second duration as the movement speed buff. So Rapid Recharge also an update, now gains 12% weapon damage. T1 extra charge gives plus 6%, and improved Rich Spirit Power increased from plus 6 to plus 8. Torment Pulse also has health increase from plus 125 to plus 140, and Silence Glyph also has Spirit Shield reduction from plus 200 down to plus 150. Echo Shard also has Spirit Power increased from plus 8 to plus 12. Now we get into hero changes. A lot of hero changes, and obviously big buffs, some nerfs for some of your favorite heroes in the game. Number 1, Abrams. Abrams has fixed seismic impact getting stuck on ceilings like in the mid-boss room, so that's a bug fix. Shoulder Charge also turn rate reduced a little bit, and then Infernal Resilience reduced from 17% to 16%, and Shoulder Charge also has a stun time reduced from 1 second to 0.85 seconds. Bebop also has an uppercut that no longer reboots your hero during cast time and can now keep firing if he jumps and his laser is already warmed up. Also reverted recent change to make Hook have an alternative cast mode to pierce through allies and enemies, and Hook range reduced from 35 meters to 30 meters, along with his Hyper Beam now does splash damage around a 5-meter area. The beam connects to the ground and can be used to fish heroes out of cover in some areas. Dynamo also, Rejuvenating Aurora no longer gets canceled when stamina is used. Rejuvenating Aurora T3 also reduced from 4% to 3.8%. Kinetic Pulse T1 reduced from 40% to 30, slow down 35%, and Quantum Entanglement cooldown increased from 11 seconds to 12 seconds. Great Talon also fixed issues with charge slot hitting targets behind walls, and they fixed Guided Owl doing damage through buildings. I was getting sick and tired of that. Also, Rain of Arrows weapon damage has been reduced from +7 to +4. Rain of Arrows T2 weapon damage reduced from +7 to +5, and bullet damage growth per boon increased from 1.46 to 1.8. And the Guided Owl cooldown has increased from 110 seconds to 120 seconds. So a little bit of a nerf in some of those areas as well. Also, well, I guess not really all of those are nerfs. A lot of those are bug fixes. Also, Haze got fixed issues with Sleep Dagger hitting behind, targets behind walls. That seemed to be an issue on the game, and regardless, not just that one specific hero. Also, Infernus base health reduced from 625 down to 600, and Flame Dash slow resistance increased from 30% to 50%. They also fixed some things with Ivy slow control issues when flying near wall, and Drop Silence and slow to buff duration reduced from 4.5 seconds to 4 seconds. Kelvin Arctic Beam fire rate also has slow reduced from 80% to 40%, and Kelvin also's Arctic Beam has another change of a movement slow reduction from 80% to 70%. Another change for Kelvin was objectives in Rejuvenate are now frozen and invulnerable when under frozen shelter in the ice path, and Arctic Beam can also now be canceled by hitting the ability key again. Lady Geist also has some updates, with Essence Bomb T3 damage also increasing from 22% to 26%. Essence Bomb Spirit scaling increased from 1.05 to 1.15, and fixed a recent bug with Malice also that caused multiple blood shards to be absorbed by one hero rather than pass through and hit others. It didn't stack that way in any case. And Lady Geist also, last change here for her, self damage no longer consumes shields, and that's just a general change overall. Lash also with some updates. Ground Slam now allows you to turn during the descent, bullet growth from 1.15 to 0.9, and Ground Strike damage spirit also has a scaling increase from 0.78 to 0.85. Ground strike damage per meter spirit scaling increased from 0.045 to 0.05. Now for McGinnis, we've got Medicinal Spectre radius reduced from 6 meters to 5 meters, and the radius now grows with spirit power 0.07. Also, you can no longer wall jump from Spectral Wall, and Spectral Wall mid-range now has been reduced from 7 meters to 6 meters, and Spectral Wall duration has been reduced from 6 seconds to 5 seconds. Heavy Barrage spirit scaling increased from 0.3 to 0.35, and Heavy Barrage minimum range reduced from 7 meters to 6 meters. The mini turret's bullet travel speed has also been increased, and Mo and Krill also had some updates. The camera zooms out a little more when unburrowing, and you can cast Scorn while using Combo. Combo T2 has now been reduced from 1 second to 0.75 seconds. Paradox also got changes where the fixed issues have now been in place for paradoxical swap hitting targets behind walls. Once again, like I said, this was already an issue for many other heroes in the game. No big deal there. Pocket also got an update with Barrage Amp per stack reduced from 7% to 6%. Barrage slow reduced from 40% to 30%. Added a brief lockout period on Flying Cloak to prevent accidental double clicks. And then Seven with a big update here. Probably one of the fan favorite heroes in the game right now. Base bullet resist reduced from 8% to 0%. Bullet resist no longer scales with boons, and headshot reduction increased from 25% to 35%. Now, Storm Cloud damage reduced from 124 to 110. Storm Cloud also max radius reduced from 30 meters to 25 meters. Storm Cloud cooldown reduced from 180 to 140 seconds. And Storm Cloud audio is now a little clearer when it casts. This is an underrated fix here. Not many people bring a lot of light to audio fixes, and when I think they really definitely are probably needing praise for it, because many other games out there suck with bad audio, and that's one thing that these type of games I've always really appreciated. Honestly, not even just Deadlock, but many of these games like Valorant, like League of Legends. I know the audio is not necessarily as directional because it's more of a top-down MOBA type game, and this one is not. But I do feel like something about those games, they're just cleaner, they're smoother. Valorant, on the other hand, you know where people are, and all these other FPS games, they're just not like that at all. So shout out to Deadlock for fixing some small issues, because in my experience, the audio has been much better than many of the other games that I play. Shiv also fixed issues with serrated knives hitting targets behind walls. You know, go figure. We all knew that. Slice and dice damage reduced from 125 to 105, and bloodletting deferred damage cleared reduced now from 50% to 40%. And the killing blow bonus damage from full range reduced from plus 25% to 20%. And the killing blow tier 2 now also increases rage amp by plus 5%. Vindicta, let's talk about these. Also, more big changes here. Base bullet damage reduced from 14 to 13, and stake T1 duration reduced from 0.75 seconds to plus 0.5 seconds. Assassinate bonus gold is now shared with assisters, and Crow Familiar now reduces bullet armor by 6%, and impact damage reduced from 50 to 40, and spirit power duration scaling reduced from 0.04 to 0.03. Now with Vindicta, you can also use stamina while flying to get impulse in the facing direction, and spacebar no longer exits the ability, so you have to press the key again in order to do so. Assassinate now also does 20% more damage when getting a headshot, and scope ends when you are stunned in Assassinate. Also, Vicious got some updates. This is a big one. Puddle Punch now correctly knocks people in the cube up in the air. Wasn't always working properly. Now when you have some of these heroes working the way they were intended, I think that you may just look at this and think, oh, it's a bug fix, no big deal. But when they're working as intended, they actually may turn out to be a lot better than what you probably remember, because these things can be a lot bigger than what they seem sometimes. Also, improved various issues with the camera. Puddle Punch now telegraphs an effect before it forms, and base bullet damage has been reduced from 14 to 13. Splatter damage also has been reduced from 110 to 100, and goo ball turn rate improved a bit, and goo ball stun frequency cooldown improved from 1.5 to 1.25 seconds. And they fixed Puddle Punch piercing unstoppable. Warden also with some updates here. Bullet growth reduced from 1.31 to 1.2. A chemical flask debuffed duration reduced from 7 seconds to 6 seconds, and also the radius from that has been reduced from 7 meters to 6.5 meters. You also gain 50% bullet resistance during the 2-second ult channel, and we move on to Wraith. Wraith has a card trick damage reduced from 100 to 80. Also, card trick spirit scaling increased from 1.2 to 1.5. And the card trick card projectiles spawn above the reticle rather than on the left side. Now, lastly, as we talk about heroes, before we move into map changes, we're talking about Yamato. Yamato has ammo that now scales with spirit power at 0.15. Also, power slash damage has been reduced from 170 to 160, and grapple post cast duration reduced from 0.5 to 0.2. Alt fire now fixed to work with conditional damage sources like point blank, pristine emblem, etc. And the shadow transformation bullet and spirit resistance has been reduced from 55% to 40%. You can now interrupt power slash with parry. Also, map changes here. This is a big one. We need to talk about this because they have added connections from the shop to the front of the department store. And you can see some pictures on screen that'll help you with all of this. But they've added a shop to the front of the department store and the New York Oracle buildings. They also added a veil in the opening at the front, looking out toward the opposing side. And they added a cover in front of the opening with the veil. And they also moved the catwalk stair in front of the department store and the New York Oracle closer to the mid. You can see, like I said, some of these pictures on screen. And then also some of the base changes they had. They angled the walkway connection from the outer lane exits to the inner lane exits. They also added an overhang below the patron position, and they added 2 juke closets facing the patron as well. They also have rope changes where they removed the exterior ropes from the garage and nightclub and replaced interior stairwells with ropes inside garage and nightclubs that give access to the second floor and the roof. I really like these changes. The rope mechanic in this game, I feel like, works very well. These are a lot of patch notes, a lot to consider here. I think the biggest one, obviously, were many of the hero changes and the map changes as well. So if you had builds, specific builds for these heroes that you were always accustomed to, get ready to learn some new builds, because obviously it wasn't just the hero changes. It wasn't just their abilities. It's also these the whole weapon items. All of these things got changed. So the whole game is about to feel fresh even again. Now, I know what you're thinking. It's invite only. How can I play? While we're still new with the channel, happy to invite anyone that needs an invite. Just let us know down in the comment section below. Have you played Deadlock yet? What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on the patch notes down below? Like the video, subscribe to the channel for more Deadlock news. And until the next time, we'll see you all later.